I gotta say, I'm really thankful that Skybound finally did a reprint of this series, because I've been wanting to reread issue 1 and go through it with y'all, but I couldn't bring myself to go over my original copy, because, once it's in there and it's saved, no way. So I'm glad that they did a reprint, and I had to jump on it. And if I'm not mistaken, the initial cover that we see here is Bill Sienkiewicz. And if I'm wrong, feel free to make fun of me down in the comments. But just being able to go back into this book, it's just, I'm all excited. The original print date on the cover of the original book was September 1984. Working on the book was Bill Manilow plot, Ralph Macchio doing the script, Frank Springer pencils, Kim DeMolder doing the inks, Neil Yomtov doing the colors, and there's everyone else that worked on the book. And at the time, Bob Budiansky was the original series editor. And just, I don't see the quality that we have anymore compared to this book. Listen to the way that we are introduced to this world. Circling the star Alpha Centauri ages ago, on a planet unlike any other in the heavens, Cybertron. No rock or soil or sand contributed to its bizarre geography. Its content was entirely mechanical. Cybertron existed from metallic surface to core as a vast Saturn-sized machine world, a world whose origins were lost in the dead past. Yet life had evolved here, had grown and adapted and thrived in its environment remarkably well. And cities rose from across a broad mechanical expanse, cities that were the products of Cybertron's dominant life form. The Autobots, whereas life elsewhere in the cosmos usually evolved through carbon building, here it was the interaction of natural occurring gears, levers, and pulleys that miraculously brought forth sentient beings. They created a mechanical paradise, a machine-filled landscape where each Autobot went about his pursuits and peace and prosperity. Whoa! They didn't even have to get super scientific, but it was enough to just grab you in, and it's like, wow, okay, this is really interesting. And then, of course, we have to talk about the Decepticons, where it says, but every paradise there's a serpent, and on its world it was Megatron, commander of those who called themselves the Decepticons. And one thing that kind of threw me was the fact that Ravage talks, but apparently he's supposed to be like the master spy. No one's able to catch him, so they always call him the master spy, etc., so forth. So just kind of seeing that was sort of an oddball. Now, I know in other books, it's Megatron wanting to lead Cybertron so he can lead it the way he wants, but he's saying it's too peaceful, and we need to bring the Decepticon ways to this world. And he goes, strike with all the might at your command, death to the Autobots and the decay for what they stand. And they talk about how through years, centuries of the battle raged, with Megatron just being too strong for the Autobots. But from Iacon, greatest of city-states, there came a leader to inspire the Autobots in the hour of their deadliest peril, Optimus Prime. Of all the Autobots, only he, wise and powerful beyond understanding, was able to unite the scattered warriors into a fully effective fighting force. Oh! Now, because of all these ages of raging war, Cybertron had spun out of its orbit, so it was just aimlessly for centuries blowing through the cosmos. And yet the war raged on and no one united. Great little metaphor for life, yeah? So they're talking about how Cybertron was heading for an asteroid field, and it was Optimus's mission to take the Ark to destroy all of the asteroids in their way so their planet wouldn't be destroyed. But before they can celebrate being able to remove those and that they'd saved themselves, the Decepticons were fresh, fully fueled for the battle, and the inebriated Autobots were cut down where they stood. My computation showed defeat is imminent within 5.7 minutes. The original course of action includes, we have but one course open to us, Prowl, my most trusted advisors. I had anticipated such a move by the Decepticons. The Arks and its secrets must never fall into enemy hands, and so I've plotted an alternative course that would take us on a suicidal heading, directly into the third planet of this solar system. Farewell, my friend. Though we die, at least our enemies are taken with us. I've said this before, and I've said this again, they did not need to go this hard. And yet you're just hit right in the feels as this arc crashes into Earth and is there for 4 million years until the volcano finally erupts, reawakening both Decepticon and Autobots alike, because the programming was damaged when they crashed. And here's a little thing I had to look at. So the Decepticons wake up, and Megatron says, "This ship's brain imparted the information on locale to our circuitries. We crash-landed on this world ages ago, and have been in a state of dormancy since, until an explosion reawakened the Ark, and it revived us." And I was like, wait, what the hell, Optimus? "The Autobots too, though groggy, have arisen from their stasis. Thus let us finish the task that has driven our kind for centuries." Apparently, the artist was still kind of blurry on what character was what, so I looked it up, and they said there was some where their Autobots are drawn as Decepticons, so that was a little thrown off by that. Now, the one thing that I will kind of ding this book with, that feels a little corny, is before they depart, Megatron says, "Are we all accounted for on this brave new world?" And it's just everybody basically doing a roll call and giving a quick description, which I understand why they did it, because they got to bring you in and understand which character is which, why are we using these characters, etc., so forth. But I kind of wish they would have taken a play from Claremont and just done like the little third-party ones, instead of everyone kind of just sounding off and saying like, "I, frenzy, will shatter our opponent's equilibrium using high-pitched sound waves. I will not cease until every Autobot is slain." And you sound wave, and it's like, I'll let it pass, because then we come in and the Autobots do the same damn thing. And again, this is supposed to be like a stat page for the action figures. That's all the comic book was. Is back in the day they were trying to think of how they could get people to care about the Autobots. If you watch the episode of The Toys Who Made Us, they talked about when they went to the president of Hasbro, they pitched the idea of selling, I think it was both this and G.I. Joe in comics, and that's how we got Larry Hama and Bob Budiansky eventually. So even though it's a lot of reading, you at least get an idea of who's who, what's what, and just I love these early crude designs of the Autobots. And Ratchet here, I think, is the one that made me laugh the most. He goes, "Well, at least you don't have to patch up Autobots like old Ratchet does when one of us busts himself up playing hero, but I've got the tools to fix everything, even though I'd rather be partying than tinkering." Okay, Michelangelo. And before all that, they want to go on a reconnaissance mission to figure out their world. And this is where we're introduced to Buster Witwicky. We are not introduced till Sam Tell way later in the game, which is his older brother. And Sparkplug here kind of gets on my nerves, because Buster's late getting home, and his dad, of course, being the mechanic, goes, "I know you're doing your best, son, but you've always got your nose in a book, and that bothers me. I just wish you were doing something more useful to you, something to lead you to a job one day." I'm glad that mentality is finally starting to piss off, because knowledge is power, both technical and book smart. And it's just, and it kind of just gives an off-putting feeling of Sparkplug for me. "Buster, I hope you know I'm only thinking for you. The world's full of folks that'll eat you right up if you don't show them you can do something. And that you learn by living, not reading." And it's like, again, I think that's what they're trying to go for here, is the angst of the teens in the 80s versus the old farts, the boomers. Because we all know in common sense it's a mixture of both. But anyway, artwork's amazing. I love how when they first ripped out of the volcano from Mount St. Hilary, just the power of the Autobots on display. And then here, the computer was only that revived them when it went on a reconnaissance of the world. It didn't focus on carbon-based stuff, because in Cybertron there's no such thing as carbon belt stuff. So when it searched, it scanned all of the vehicles, thinking that was the master dominant species. And like, is that them, Pro? Have we found the Earthlings? I don't know, Bumblebee. They look like the inhabitants the Ark scanned. But what was that giant screen? What were they doing assembled before it? Probably some kind of religious ritual, Hound. Why would machines worship moving pictures of strange objects? The only way we're going to find out, Bumblebee, is to ask. I just love the ignorance that they show here, that they don't understand what carbon-based life forms are and how they just straight up ignore everyone. And then, of course, teen angst. It's like, why would you bring your buddy to a movie? Anyway, this is where Buster first is introduced to Bumblebee smashing into the back of his dad's car. And then the Decepticons attack. And this is kind of how they bring Buster and Bumblebee into the mix. And the first time that the Autobots change in front of the humans. And everyone is absolutely terrified that there's this big attack happening in the middle of their town. And Buster's just like, the noises coming from this car are really weird. It's almost like crying. It's been badly damaged, leaking something that just looks like, but it isn't oil. And so the book, it leaves you on a big cliffhanger on what's going to happen. And guys, if you've never read this, grab the reprint, because I'm not sure how much the original one's going for nowadays. I was lucky and got the one that I got. But this is definitely a way to see how everything started in the Transformer world and all the iterations that IDW and Skybound are doing now. It's great to get back to the basics. I love this book, and we'll eventually go over more of them, especially the issue where the Autobots team up with Spider-Man, because this is the Marvel Universe, or how the Dinobots were in the Savage Land with Shockwave. Just a great little way that we will eventually try to go over. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is like to get your action figures and comics, and grab these original comics. And if you've enjoyed this review, I really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little Autobot bell next subscribe, that way I can continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or on the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.